Welcome back to the show, everybody. Check out these headlines we have for you here. Banks don't need to buy XRP from Ripple anymore. We got that and so much more. You're going to want all of it. Somebody roll that beautiful intro.
Digital Perspectives with Brad Kimes. Come on in.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. You can follow us on Twitter and YouTube for exclusive content. Right now, Bitcoin is 29,800 plus, 1891 and change for Ethereum. Tether market cap 83.7 billion. XRP is 74 cents. We're still up 58.31% on the 7-day, up 2.27% in the last 24 hours. Crypto market cap is 1.24 trillion this morning, and it is off by 0.85%. Good morning, everybody. If you have not done it, join the Digital Perspectives Mastermind group. Listen, I know and you know that this is the learning curve you've been looking for. The markets are collapsing around us. Uncertainty is everywhere, but we're beginning to get clarity now, starting with the SEC versus Ripple case. And everyone in this group is making adjustments and positions in their life right now to be able to make these decisions for themselves, to be able to create the wealth using this incredible community as an asset and a tool. I tell you, this is the place you want to be. Get tools like investor checklists, get the profile creation, private groups and lessons, weekly live streams, which we have every Wednesday. You won't want to miss it. This is the time when real wealth is created, ladies and gentlemen, when everybody else is fearful. This is the time to get planning, and we've got so much in line. And we're going to have a very special guest this Wednesday talking about trust and how you can protect your assets in the future. Take advantage of that special offer and click the link underneath the video and join the group and get that free trial. This is to let you know what's going on right here in other areas. We know we had the SEC ruling against Ripple, and we like a lot of it. Now we see this. Europe's first spot Bitcoin ETF eyes 2023 debut after a year-long delay. Will that trigger a ETF in the United States as well? We'll pay attention to see if it does. We're watching it closely. And I wanted to show this. This is 1 minute clip here. First of all, shout out to John Deaton, all this guy does for so many of us in this space. But I wanted to play this clip to remind the power of all of us, especially when all of us work in a coordinated effort together to have one voice, as we've done to expose ETHgate and the free pass, as we've done to expose the injustice against Ripple with the SEC's overreach and jurisdiction, and looking to use this lawsuit against Ripple as an actual weapon, which I certainly believe was done. But I want you to hear this message from John Deaton.
When you feel strong about something, you can make a difference, Ash. And, you know, in this decision, there are two footnotes or two citations. One is the library hearing that I attended on behalf of Naomi Brockwell. And the judge cited where the judge told me he wasn't going to apply his order to secondary market sales. That's a footnote in this decision. And then there's also a citation where the judge cited the 3,600 affidavits that we submitted on behalf of XRP holders. And so, you know, there was a lot of people who, you know, were questioning, why are we doing this? And these Naomi Brockwell XRP holders who decided that they wanted to be heard were actually heard and made a difference. It's in the proof. She didn't have to cite those things, and she did. And so I would just encourage people to, you know, always, if you see something, have the courage to speak up, because you can make a difference.
Amen to that. You got to pick which hills you want to die on. And I tell you, you know, ETHgate, the free pass, and this court case against Ripple being used as a weapon was one of those hills that I know I had to decide right then and there. I am not going to stop fighting, because I believe if we did, it would even be worse. We may not even have a decision in this case at this point. So, you know, definitely agree with John Deaton's words and appreciate him. And let us not forget very quickly here too, John Deaton hasn't just stood up for all of us in the crypto space. He's changed forevermore the way crypto cases are fought with the amicus brief filings. Shout out to Meta Lawman for highlighting that particular point as well. SEC's crypto strategy falters in Ripple case. That's what Wall Street Journal says. Yeah, how about that one? And then we have this. U.S. SEC disappointed by outcome in Ripple case ruling. Oh, we like it. I just want to give you this last part because it feels so good to read it. We waited over 2.5 years to read it. A U.S. judge ruled that Ripple's token sales on public cryptocurrency exchanges were not offers of securities under the law. And as you can imagine, this guy was not happy about it. Listen to what he says here. He doesn't refer to Judge Torres's ruling as a ruling, but simply her opinion. Take a listen here.
How does the federal court ruling last week in the Ripple case impact your stance toward digital asset regulation? Does it inject urgency into the need for federal legislation to clarify regulatory oversight of this industry?
Before he speaks, you can see his disgust on his face.
Look, our mission remains exactly what I spoke about earlier, about investor protection, promoting capital formation, and the markets in the middle.
And he's done none of that. And if anything, he's harmed us.
This is a recent decision, just a handful of days ago. We were pleased from that decision, recognizing the importance of protecting investors on the institutional investors in that, and that the court movement with regard to fair notice, and while disappointed on what they said about retail investors, we're still looking at it and assessing that opinion.
That opinion is a matter of law, fella. That's how unhappy he is. But I want to give you now what I believe has become a puppet for Wall Street and the SEC. It's this guy, Charles Gasparino. I mean, he has interjected himself into this situation. And there can be no other reason, whether he understands what he's done or exposed of himself and his position or not. The adults in the room understand clearly what's going on here. And while Charles Gasparino is standing on an island on his own, making the claims that he's making, I want to play this clip for you. Take a listen.
Just sell it to an exchange, or sell it to retail on the exchange, or to institutions on the exchange. It was a very strange ruling. And if you sort of extrapolated at it, it's like saying that Apple, if I go to Apple and I buy it at the IPO, that's a security. But somehow, if I buy it on my Robinhood app, remember, it doesn't come from the company itself at that point. Well, that's not a security because, I'm a retail investor, and then they don't have to disclose anything to me. Think about this. Judge Torres is also saying you need to disclose to the smartest investors a lot of information.
But not the retail.
I mean, it's just mind-boggling. So, in any event, what's going to happen here? I mean, I think it's a horrible ruling, particularly for crypto, because I'll tell you why. Again, this is a business that needs clarity, regulatory clarity, and we got these mixed rulings, and it could be appealed, and that's what I think is going to happen. I mean, we're talking to people with very close ties to the SEC, and Gary Gensler almost said it himself. We are assessing the situation. They're most likely going to appeal it. They're going to try to appeal it to the Second Circuit, federal court. They're trying to get what's known as it's an expedited appeal. You have to ask Judge Torres to put an expedited appeal. It's known as something called an I can't say the word, interlocutory. This is why
Interlocute.
That's it. You got it. It was close. Say it again.
No.
You don't want to say it.
It's
interlocutory.
Well, that's enough of that. While they try to sound it out, we'll send some flashcards up to New York. But the reality is it's an interlocutory appeal, and it has to be approved by Judge Torres in order for it to happen. And it doesn't look likely that that will happen. And that doesn't mean that the SEC cannot appeal. Of course, they can certainly appeal anyway in other means. But what has happened here is that 100% VC model of investing in early pre-sale before it goes to retail has been shut down. That's what has happened. And you know what? With that ruling, the reason I believe Charles Gasparino's freaking out, saying this people at the SEC are freaking out, VCs don't like it, well, it's because that if you look at Ethereum, for instance, that's exactly what they did. And they created an Ethereum token factory, an assembly line, and anybody that was involved in Ethereum as a VC or any of its assembly line tokens, you better get a lawyer. Because Big Bad Goldman Gensler just got the law on his side to come and get you now. That's what happened. And I sat down yesterday with none other than Jimmy Valley from Val Hill Capital, Val Hill Advisors. And he told me much the same thing. Judge Torres has spoken. The crypto in early selling to the face of retail VC business model is over.
I expect that they will do like what they've done in Library. They'll get an injunction to prohibit Ripple from violating the securities laws and effectively issuing XRP in a securities transaction.
And by the way, very quickly, with that point that he's making about the SEC getting an injunction about those transactions in the early days there, the SEC would have to provide a waiver along with, I'm sure, like a no action letter going forward for Ripple. And therein lies where you have a chance for settlement talks. But we'll talk about that in just a second because the judge is talking about it too.
Which pretty much means issuing it to big kid institutions under written contracts. And, you know, the really great thing is, as you step back and let this decision process, there's been a business model that has been perpetrated in crypto. And let's call it the venture capital business model. But, you know, we know, because we know all these players, we know who we're talking about. But these are people who were able to get a direct allotment of a cryptocurrency directly from the founder sponsor of the project, and then engage their media assets to increase the value of said asset, and then they dumped it on retail. Yep. And there's several of these projects that, and there's, you know, a handful of these financial institutions, venture capital firms, hedge funds that made this their business model, and they've become billionaires doing it, okay? Mm-hmm. That's what was declared illegal. Yeah. If you really step back and see that business model of getting is over. Yeah.
And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. That business model is over. So think of it for a moment. So now you're looking at a scenario that this just dropped here. Shout out to Eleanor Terrett for this. District Judge Torres has referred Ripple case to Magistrate Judge Netburn for general pretrial, includes scheduling, discovery, non-dispositive pretrial motions, and settlement. Right here. Right here. Doesn't mean that they will settle, but it's on the table for an option. Obviously, think about what Jimmy just said here. You're looking at a scenario where they could settle and say, okay, SEC, when it comes to the early sales, give me an idea. What am I going to need to pay in order to get you to give me that waiver for those early sales and a no action letter going forward for the ODL commercial use? What is it going to cost? Meanwhile, that ruling stands for all the market, not just Ripple. So they end up negotiating a post-judgment settlement, and then they'll get to go forward, and the rest of the market has got to run the Ripple gauntlet for the next 2+ years the way Ripple has had to do. That's what we're looking in the face of here. And by the way, don't let any of it scare you, because yesterday, boy, there's been an incredible amount of news and we got so much to go over. I sat down with the CEO of Uphold yesterday. Shout out to Simon McLaughlin. And we had an incredible conversation. Look out for that interview and clips. That's going to be fire. But COO, Chief Operating Officer linked to Joe Indoso, lays it down. Banks don't need to buy XRP from Ripple anymore, and it'll work just fine. Listen to how he lays it out.
Points here to be made. That is a one-time fee, a penalty that's going to get paid for an issuance of XRP that took place in the past. On a go-forward basis, I'm absolutely convinced that the need to issue XRP in that manner will no longer exist.
So he's laying it down right there and saying, hey, the way that they did those early sales is no longer really something they even need to do in this day and age. They have a liquidity hub. They have on-demand liquidity, right? So they don't need to onboard clients and customers and partners in the manner they did in the early days. So they'll get that waiver. They'll get that clearance going forward. That's what this post-settlement judgment talk is all about here. But listen how he says it'll work for the banks in a better way for them to mitigate their risk.
Because XRP is going to be listed on exchanges, and issuances of XRP in the future can take place through those exchanges in programmatic sales. And this, by the way, includes ODL, right? If I'm a bank, I don't need to buy that Ripple directly from Ripple, or that XRP directly from Ripple anymore. Today, I would simply use Ripple's liquidity hub, and I would get that sourced on a best execution basis from any one of 100 exchanges worldwide that are tied into Liquidity Hub. Therefore, that would be a programmatic sale under Judge Torres's nomenclature, and therefore not a security issuance event.
Come on
So
in.
I think it puts Ripple now in this very special position that, frankly, a number of the other altcoins still are not at, because the SEC is now going to train their guns on the other guys, and they're going to have to go through their version of hell the same way that, you know, Ripple has been able to withstand and survive the last couple of years. So they're ahead of the pack at this point. That's the significance, in my view, of what happened last week.
Now, the question is how long will it take for the banks to realize the success participating in Liquidity Hub and on-demand liquidity, mitigating their risk of the volatility of the market, and getting the best attributes of the asset for their business model and transactions and settlement? How long will it take for it to dawn on the banks, not only should we use it, but eventually it works so good that they realize that they should own it and hold it themselves? That's the moment we're in front of, I believe. Not financial advice from me or anyone else. It's just my digital perspectives. I'll catch all of you on the next one.